if you walk around with the subconscious belief that you are not good enough, you will experience every circumstance through that belief, whether you're aware of it or not. Which means that even if there is ample proof that you are good enough, your subconscious will still find a way to make you interpret it in a way that you're not good enough. Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're completely new here. My name is Lorena and I am a self-concept coach, and I support women to shift their state of being, embody a new identity, a new self-concept, and align with everything they desire in life so they can make it manifest into their physical reality. If you like this video, I would appreciate it if you left a like or maybe a comment. And if you like this type of content and you want to see more, make sure you subscribe and switch on the notifications, because I upload videos every week and I would love for you to see them. And I also invite you to check out the links in the description box below, because there's a ton of free resources from masterclasses, guidebooks, all of the things that will help you get started on your journey of changing your self-concept and calling in the things that you desire into your life. So enjoy those. Before we get into the topic of subconscious reprogramming and how to do it and why to do it, I do have a full masterclass which is completely free of charge, all on this topic. So if you watch this video and you're like, I want more, there's a whole deep dive on it, and all you need to do is send me a DM on Instagram and I will send that masterclass to you. But let's give you a little taste. So before we get into how to reprogram your subconscious, we need to talk about how your subconscious shapes your reality. Basically, what your subconscious mind does is it takes in all of the impressions that you receive from the messages around you, the events you observe around you, the people you have around you, the culture you grow up in, the society you're surrounded with, the environment around you. And over time, all of the impressions that you get turn into different belief systems, interpretations, and it just makes things a lot easier for your brain to not have to consciously think about what that event means or what that thing means. You know, you don't need to think about, is this a phone? You know it's a phone because this is imprinted in your subconscious mind. So it's very clever in that way, and it all happens very automatically. So essentially, what your subconscious mind does is it filters reality. It perceives reality and it filters out what it needs from that reality. So to say this in slightly different words, your beliefs, your emotions, your experiences from the past, your programming from the culture and society and family around you, all of that acts as a filter through which you see and perceive your external reality and ultimately interpret your external reality. Now that then leads to a lens through which you see the world. So you begin to perceive certain circumstances in a way that align with the belief systems that you have, and all of that happens completely unconsciously. So essentially, we all walk around with an internal bias of how we see the world. And sometimes that's beneficial, and other times that's not so beneficial. So before I go into why that is, I want to share with you the distinction between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. So by very definition, the conscious mind is what you are consciously aware of. So these are the thoughts, the beliefs, the assumptions, the interpretations that you know you have, which is also aligned with your ego. You are aware of your ego. It might sometimes be a little bit sneaky or be a little bit subtle, but you are aware that you have an ego and that you're in your ego right now, because that's how you know who you are. That's how you know your name, where you're from, all of those things. Those are things that you're consciously aware of, that you believe, that you assume, that you think, that you feel. Now, your subconscious mind is beneath the surface of that. So that is not stuff that you need to consciously think about, but that is all automatic. And by very definition, it says it in the name, it's not conscious. So your subconscious mind processes information incredibly fast, so fast that you're not aware of it. And not only that, it makes up the bulk of your perception and of the lens through which you see your life. So there's different opinions, different statistics that give you different numbers of how much it actually is, but it's at least 80%, and some people say it's up to 95% or more. That is your subconscious mind versus your conscious mind, which only makes up 5% or maximum 20%. And honestly, I personally think it's closer to 5%. I think your subconscious truly makes up almost everything of how you're perceiving reality and how you're manifesting reality. Now, given that the bulk of that basically happens automatically, right? Your subconscious mind processes information so fast that you don't need to think about it, and it all happens in the background without you noticing it. In some ways, that's fantastic because you don't need to think about what this is for ages. You know it's a phone because it's been programmed. You've repeated it often enough, you're aware of it. It's imprinted in your subconscious. You know, if you take the same way to work every day, you don't need to think about what way to take and which way to drive. You know it because you've done it so often. If you enter a friend's or your mom's phone number in your phone, you don't need to consciously think about the numbers. Your fingers will just type. It is so automatic, and that's fantastic because it would be really exhausting to have to remember everything all the time. But it's also not so good in some ways, because this also means that the beliefs that you walk around with, the perception you have of yourself, of your circumstances, of the people around you, of maybe relationships or money, what's possible for you, that is also subconscious. That also happens automatically without your direct control. Now that brings me to how it really shapes and manifests your reality. So we've already established it filters the events through your belief system, through everything that is in your unconscious mind, through the thoughts and feelings and experiences that you've had. So for example, if you walk around with the subconscious belief that you are not good enough, you will experience every circumstance through that belief, whether you're aware of it or not. Which means that even if there is ample proof that you are good enough, your subconscious will still find a way to make you interpret it in a way that you're not good enough. Right? It might be somebody giving you a compliment and you can't accept it because you don't believe you're good enough and it's completely unconscious. And so you might reject that compliment, or you might not even hear it. Or you might think, oh, that person is lying. So now what happens when you filter circumstances through this belief? You create more of it, because now you're showing up everywhere you go with the assumption that you're not good enough. So you're not going to be your best self. You're not going to give your all. You're not going to show up as your confident self because you don't believe you're good enough. And often you're not even aware that this is what you're doing. Your subconscious is also closely related to your shadow. Your shadow is essentially the unconscious part of your psyche. It is everything that you've hidden, that you've repressed, that you've denied, that you're simply not aware of, that you kind of pushed down, that you don't present to the world, and maybe not even yourself. So because your shadow is unconscious, and it can actually really block your manifestation if it stays unconscious and you don't take action to reprogram your subconscious, it can really block your manifestation. And I briefly just want to give you a few different ways how you can make the unconscious conscious. Some of it can just happen through direct reflection, right? Through catching yourself and through seeing, okay, what meaning am I assigning to the circumstance? What is my instinct? What do I automatically want to do or say or think? What is my initial reaction? That's a really good and simple way to do it. Now, we can't establish everything that way because our subconscious is such a complex world, to be honest, and you're not going to be able to analyze all of it. And I'll get to why in a moment. Another tool that is really powerful and that is, I don't really see spoken about a lot in the manifestation world in this context, is dream work. So That can be lucid dreaming, which I have a video about this with a friend who is also a guest teacher in my coaching program, Recreate Yourself, where she teaches a workshop on using lucid dreaming for manifestation. And we had a conversation about dream work and lucid dreaming for manifestation. And that conversation also includes how it aligns with your shadows. Because to me, dream work is really powerful for shadow work, because your dreams are an expression of your psyche. They are an expression of your subconscious. It's how you process the things that you don't consciously process during the day because you don't have the time and you don't have the space and you probably don't make the time. And another way is to work with somebody who is able to bring these shadows and these subconscious patterns for you to the surface, either through different practices or simply through offering and holding the space. So that can be a coach, that can be a therapist. Make sure whoever they are, that they are very skilled, that they know what they're doing, that they are a safe space. Because the thing is, if it's not a safe space, your subconscious will not feel safe to open up and present itself, because there's a purpose in keeping these things unconscious. Part of that is to make things easier for your brain so you don't consciously need to think about it all the time. And part of that is a protective mechanism because it doesn't want to be seen, because maybe you've been hurt in the past by having it be seen. So when you work with somebody who can really help you to get to the nitty-gritty of it and get to the root of these patterns, make sure it's a safe container where you can fully open up in a non-judgmental space. Having your patterns reflected back to you is so powerful and so important. You can even begin by just asking a very honest friend about your blind spots. Now, if they are not trained professionals, they might not be able to get to the root of the issue or the pattern, but they might be able to give you viewpoints that you can't see on your own. So that can be helpful too. Needs to be an honest friend though. All in all, it's important to remember your subconscious is complex. As I said, we don't fully understand everything that's going on inside of it, and it influences us all the time. And there's a point in having these beliefs, thoughts, patterns, behaviors kept hidden, kept subconscious. It just wants to protect you. And it does not want you to see the truth of it all. So it really takes intentional work to bring that to the surface so that you can get control back over your beliefs and ultimately your reality. So I already gave you some tools to reprogram, or some starting points with how to work with your subconscious. And the first step is always awareness, making the unconscious conscious. What is important when you want to reprogram your subconscious mind is that you deprogram before you reprogram. A mistake I see a lot of people make is people trying to program new beliefs before they have really dismantled the old ones. So you may then try to bypass your reality really quickly and make yourself believe something that your subconscious doesn't yet believe. And if your subconscious is not on board with it, it's going to be really hard to really shift into that state and establish this new belief system. So I see this in beliefs, for example, being brushed over. So people gain the awareness of like, oh yeah, I believe that I'm not worthy. But then they brush over that and they just try to convince themselves that they are worthy, but they don't actually make the space to be with the I'm not worthy belief and to take it apart and to dismantle it. And when I say that, I don't mean we need to overanalyze it. In fact, we don't. You don't need to analyze everything to death. And I advise you against it because it can really keep you stuck in a cycle of trying to fix things all the time. But we do need to dismantle these beliefs first, because otherwise you're not getting to the root. You're just scratching the surface and you're just bypassing it. And how can you program something new if you're still holding on to the old? The other really important part when it comes to reprogramming your subconscious is that you don't only need to reprogram your mind, you need to reprogram your nervous system. And again, this takes a skilled practitioner. There's a multitude of nervous system techniques and modalities that you can find online. And even if you're trained in modalities, that's awesome. But just a technique on its own is not going to give you that complete reprogramming of your system. But it's important to reprogram your nervous system. I always like to say you cannot reprogram your subconscious without reprogramming your nervous system. And that's because your subconscious lives in your nervous system. It's not just in your mind. It's not just in your brain. So you need to deprogram these imprints that are in your nervous system and essentially in your subconscious so that you can program and embody something new. Because these initial reactions that you have to things, these meanings that you instantly assign, they happen so quickly because it's your body and your heart that react first and foremost before your brain even does anything. And what is also really important is that you need to really dive deep into your subconscious. You need to familiarize yourself with your subconscious. Techniques are not the be all end all. There are wonderful modalities and techniques for subconscious reprogramming, whether it's hypnosis or EFT tapping. They are all wonderful modalities and they only come at it from one angle, and you're also not really in full control of it. For example, I love doing hypnosis. And it's just a technique, and I'm just basically hoping for the best. And it does create changes, but it just adds on changes. If you don't do any deeper work along with that, you will keep hitting a wall. Similar with anything that comes with a repetition, right? Whether you do the same meditation every day or you repeat the same affirmation all the time. If the deeper work is missing, if you don't familiarize yourself intimately with your subconscious and you learn to deprogram it and reprogram it, you will basically just put a plaster on to the old belief or the old patterns or whatever is imprinted in your subconscious. Most of all, reprogramming your subconscious is not something that happens overnight. It is not something that can be instant, because you always have to remember any beliefs that you are holding on to, they have been built up over time from the very beginning. And so depending on how old you are, that might be a significant time. So it will take time to reprogram that, to deprogram it and program new beliefs. And it doesn't mean that if, let's say you're 35 years old, doesn't mean that it's going to take another 35 years. Definitely not, because I'm living proof. I had the worst beliefs, I had so many self-worth issues. I was always in codependent relationship dynamics. I was always hitting a glass ceiling with my income. I was not having the success I wanted. I was not in my purpose. And it was all these subconscious patterns that were holding me back. And whilst they were built over time, and a lot of it happened in my teenage years, a lot of it happened in my childhood, I reprogrammed most of that in the time span of like a year or two. So it will take time. It will not happen overnight, but it will not take the same amount of time that it took to program the initial belief. So don't worry about that one. And because it takes time is also why I don't offer one-off coaching sessions, why you can only work with me in a long-term coaching container, because that is the way you will see the deep transformation and the life-changing results that you desire. Just like a technique can be helpful, a one-off call can be helpful, it can give you a boost, but it's not going to lead to the integration over time, which is really going to help you to embody a completely new state, a completely new belief system, a completely new self-concept, and manifest your reality effectively and efficiently and almost effortlessly from there. So all in all, reprogramming your subconscious has to happen on a felt level, on an embodied level, not just on a mental level. This is very important. And I will also say this is a massive topic, and I did not want to make this video massively long. So I invite you to comment below with any questions you have about this topic, and I'll be happy to make more specific videos on it. Also, if you want to have the free masterclass on reprogramming your subconscious and subconscious mastery, then please send me a DM on Instagram and I'll be able to send that to you. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in next week's video.